Welcome to the Strength for Life podcast with Pastor James C. Johnson, a ministry of NorthStone Baptist Church in Pensacola, Florida.
Pastor Traylor, thank you for coming on the podcast.
My joy. Thank you.
Yes, sir. So last episode, I got to interview Pastor Redlin from the campus church,
Right.
and pick his brain about ministry. I am 20. I'm going to be a junior at PCC studying pastoral ministries. And so the little mini series that we're doing is me getting to sit down with a pastor like yourself and pick his brain about ministry, about what to expect and things I need to know. And so thank you for taking the time to do this. I value your years in ministry and your faithfulness to the Lord. So.
Well, thank you. My honor to be here.
If we could, I'd like to start off with some get to know you questions.
All right.
And to ask you some things, and hopefully our audience can get to know you a little more. So, Pastor Traylor, what are some hobbies that you have? What do you like to do in your free time?
Well, for years here, I played golf every Thursday for over 25 years here in Pensacola.
Really?
I did. Just had a group of older gentlemen that they were much older than I was at the time, and so I played a lot of golf.
Okay.
I've not done that. As a matter of fact, two of those three men, I've done their funerals now, and I've not really picked that back up, gotten a little older, don't play as well, but that was there. I'm a big Alabama football fan, and so I go up to most of the home games on Friday night, and have a workout routine that I do on the campus, praying over the next generation at the University of Alabama and praying for other schools and that kind of thing. And then enjoy football and little basketball. I played junior college basketball before coming to Samford University in Birmingham. So those are a few things that I've enjoyed doing and kind of takes my time.
Now, I also heard you played quarterback.
I was a QB for 2 years in high school, well, all the way, junior high and all of that, but on my varsity for junior and senior year. Yeah.
That's cool. So when you played golf in Pensacola, where'd you go? Where was your go-to golf spot?
Oh, my goodness. We played every golf course in town.
Yeah.
But one of my older gentlemen was a retired Solutia man, and so we played at the Solutia plant a good bit. We'd go down and play the country club.
And is that the one that's not in shape anymore?
I've not been out there in a while, but I hear it's not in great shape.
Yeah, I think they turned it into a disc golf course.
Okay, they may have. I don't know. It's just been a while since I've been there.
Okay.
We also played a lot at Stonebrook over in the neighboring county, and just Marcus Point. We enjoyed playing the Marcus Point course.
Yeah.
If they opened the door, we just about played it in those 25 years,
That's awesome. Well, I've recently got into golf, maybe the last 3 years or so.
Yeah.
Now, what would you say was your best handicap over the time that you played? Maybe what was your best round that you ever shot?
Oh, goodness. I don't know. I mean, I never was really good. I was kind of a one over. I don't mean the whole round, but every hole,
a little bogey golf.
I was kind of played bogey golf in my best time.
Yeah.
Something like that.
That's great. That's great. Now, I heard that you grew up in Pisgah.
That's correct.
Okay. And I also heard that your parents, do they own a grocery store or something?
Yes. My mom and dad ran the Pisgah IGA that became the Super Value, that became the Luckies, that through the chains that we had. But I grew up in the IGA, International Grocers Association, as a kid, working in that grocery store. I'm an only child, and so I worked there. Matter of fact, I posted a picture of my mother just a few days ago on my Facebook account. She's young. I mean, just in front of the old store. We had then a newer building. And I said, the greatest leadership lesson I ever learned was when this lady told me, grab a broom. And I learned so much that I use every day of my life from my mom and dad. I learned from them service, leadership, just I called my mother my first seminary professor when I buried her here about 2 years ago. I did her funeral. That was the title of the message I preached, was my first seminary professor, and gave 7 things that she taught me about pastoring a local church.
That's
Yeah.
neat. I was hanging out with Kevin Kirkpatrick this morning,
Ah,
and he was telling me some of those details, some facts about you.
you bet. How'd his teeth look?
Oh, they looked great. They looked great. Did you hear about that?
Oh, I did. Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. We talked about it
I
this
saw
morning.
him Tuesday night and made him smile big. So, yeah,
He looks good.
it really looks great.
Now, I worked at the Wilds of North Carolina last summer.
Okay.
So I was up in your neck of the woods for
Uh-huh.
the summer. Now, do you know, you might not know this guy, but do you know Randy Barton, Dr. Randy Barton? He's at Anchor Baptist Church up there.
Okay.
I just wondered. He sounds an awful lot like you. It's probably just that up in the mountains.
It's probably the mountain slang and lingo and verbiage we use.
Here's
Yeah.
a question for you. Do you have a favorite restaurant in Pensacola to go to?
Oh my.
You and your wife or anything?
Yeah, we. And because it's kind of a running joke at the church, I always tell it when I take my wife on a hot date, we're headed to Waffle House.
Yeah.
And we do that a lot. I mean, we really do. We enjoy the food there and the just easy in, easy out kind of thing. But you know, if we're eating out at a little, you know, maybe a fancier time, we like Jackson's downtown. And, for a fancy night. The place there where you get right on Palafox where you get just the appetizers. Oh my, I forget the name of it, but
I'm not sure.
yeah, it's really good. We enjoy that.
Yeah.
Well, anything, you know, we used to love Chet's, but of course that's kind of gone now and things have turned over. But yeah, we enjoy those places. And then, you know, my go-to place when people come to town is the Fish House downtown. And so I take more people to the Fish House than probably any other place. And we enjoy that.
That's a good spot.
A lot of friends there. And
right.
When I take friends out of town guests there, I'll say you can't get elected to any office in Pensacola or Northwest Florida unless you go in the back room at the Fish House. I said that's where they make the sausage around
the
here.
Entry test. Yeah,
that's right.
I love it. That's great. All right, let's hop into some ministry questions here.
Certainly.
That I've got for you. The first and obvious question is, how did you get called into the ministry? Was there a moment of decision where you felt like the Lord was working in your heart and you surrendered to that, or has it been a process of surrender?
Yeah, it came pretty cut and dry for me. I grew up I'm a high school graduate, 1972 class. Jesus movement sweeping across America, 69, 70, 71, sweeps down into our region. I'm going to be a basketball coach. That's my plan for life. I wanted John Wooden's job at UCLA. That's what I was going to do. That was my mark.
Yeah.
I was headed there. Enjoyed all sports. Probably was better playing football, our team was, but then played 2 years junior college basketball. But while I was a junior student in high school, we had a tremendous revival, and Malcolm was there. Malcolm Stewart was preaching, young seminary student, and Andrew looked at me one day and he said, "Have you ever thought that God might be calling you to gospel ministry as a preacher?" I said, "Oh, no, I'm going to be a basketball coach." But I'd been dealing with that late at night, trying to run from the call of God. But when Malcolm put that just face to face, I mean, he didn't tell me what I had to do. He just saw it. Yeah. You know, I would be a part of the leadership in our church and up front and that kind of thing. So, I dealt with that. And a good friend of mine, Tommy Turner, was preaching a revival in a little church, Rosalie Baptist Church. And I went there on a Thursday night. And I went late, sat on the back row, probably 40 people in the building. And I couldn't get up. I couldn't get away from it. And when Tommy gave the invitation, I just went to the altar and I said, "Lord, I give up." That was my word. And I'll do what you want me to do. I went home that night and told my father God had called me to preach. And he gave me the greatest piece of advice I've ever received. My dad had a GED. He's not an educated man, hardworking, smart, wise. He looked at me and he said, "Well, son, if you know what God wants you to do, you better get about doing it."
That'll preach right
there. Still the best piece of advice I've ever received.
That's a sermon.
That when I know what God wants me to do, I better get about doing it. And so that night, I said yes, and that was Thursday. The following Sunday, I walked forward in my home church and told Brother Patton, I said, God's called me to preach. And so the next week, a sister church called, and I preached the following Sunday.
Really?
At New Home Baptist Church. And then the week after that, my pastor at my little church there in Pisgah, he said, you preach next week. I said, well, I don't know what I'm doing. He said, if God's called you, he'll give you a sermon.
Wow.
Man, I never prayed so much in my life. If I'd prayed much about this Sunday as I did that first Sunday, we'd probably have revival, But, man, I don't know what I did, but I started.
Yeah.
Thank God for a church that'll let you start.
Yeah. Praise the Lord.
Yeah.
Well, something I brought this up to a few people. I brought up that you were coming on the podcast, and one of the things they said, they're not too familiar with your ministry, but they said, I don't know much about Pastor Traylor, but boy, can he preach. That's what they said. And I think that's a lot of people's sentiment is that you've just got a fire from the Lord. And one of the questions I want to ask you is, how did you become such a great speaker? Like, as well as preacher and expositor of the word, you are a good public speaker. And do you attribute that to the amount of times that you've gotten to do it over the years, or how have you become such a powerful speaker?
Well, thank you. I'm honored you would say that. I don't think of myself as that, but I started young, and the churches just gave me opportunity. And back in the day when I was called, you didn't get called to ministry. You were called to preach.
Oh, yeah.
That was the vernacular.
Sure.
That's what was said. And so when I went forward, and, Ted's come, he's been called to preach. And so, I'm not called to be a minister of music or be the whatever, you just, God called preachers.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying he doesn't call other people. I'm just saying in my time at early on, that's what it was. So I just started listening to others and studying. My pastor, Brother Patton, this is a true story. This is country. He put me in the back seat of the car with a microphone much like I've got right here, except it was a big mic. We hook it on our neck, and he had a bullhorn, and he put it on either side going out the windows of the car.
Really?
And we'd drive out through the country. And he'd just say, take your Bible. He said, now preach, son. He said, just preach. And so I practiced out, and I remember one day I said, Brother Lionel, I said, there's nothing out here but cows, and nobody's listening. He said, when you're ready for people, I'll take you to town. And that's a true story. And
that's so good.
After a while, he took me to town. He said, let's go. But you try to just hone your skill and learn, and I guess God just gives you a gift. And but yeah, I started young and tried to listen to others, and but that was one of the things my mother told me that I shared at her funeral. She said these words to me when I was called to preach. She said, now listen. She said, I've listened to enough boring preachers. If you're not going to study and pray and prepare, quit before you start.
Mm-hmm.
Mama's in heaven, but I keep thinking she's looking over my shoulder every Sunday,
She sounded like your seminary professor.
Oh, yes.
She sounded like
exactly.
That. Yeah.
And that's why I called her my first seminary professor. But she just said that, straight up. And I took that to heart, study, have something to say, preach the Bible. My grandmother, my mother's mother, I went to her little apartment. Her husband died when he was 50, my granddaddy. I was just a 5-year-old boy. Mm. I remember going to his funeral. He is a gospel singer, and grandmother's a gospel piano player. And she sat me down, and she had a big Bible, big black King James Schofield Bible. Mm-hmm. And she pat that Bible, and she said, now, son, this is the book. I said, yes, ma'am. And she said, hush. She said, just listen to me. And then she said these words to me. We don't care what you think. What we want to know is what does the book say.
Yeah.
Whew. That was my mooring, from my father. If you know what you're supposed to do, get about doing it. From my mother, don't be boring. From my grandmother, preach the book.
That's great.
That is what you do.
Praise the Lord.
And so I've tried to hone that skill. And, the biggest thing I think about preaching is for me, I had to just be yourself. I mean, you want to get better.
Yeah.
I remember, I mean, I'm so rural country where I'm from. I married a city girl, but I remember going to seminary, and the guy went to the board, and he said, Ted, say these words, and he wrote these words, M-E-T. What's that say? I said, met. He said, L-E-T. What's that say? Let. He wrote G-E-T. So what's it? I said, get. Met, let, get. He said, son, you're going to have to learn not have a lazy jaw. It's not get, it's gat. And I said, okay, I don't get it, but that's all right. But I've tried to learn, not to have the hanging G's and all, but still, I'm just a country guy. And when I'm bearing down, I can say them instead of them. We're going or we're going. And I understand that.
Yeah.
But, I've just tried to learn to be better without being arrogant if you think you are better a little bit. You hope you improve it.
Yeah, that's a great answer. It's great. One of the things that I respect about you as well is your faithfulness. And the Bible has a lot to say about giving honor to whom honors due. And faithfulness is an attribute that's worthy of honor. I think that I'm right to say that you've been at Olive for 35 years now?
If I live to Halloween, that's my anniversary date. It's October 31. I came to Pensacola, October 31, 1990. I jokingly say a lot of people thought the devil came and stayed, but that's the day I moved to town. And so the first Sunday in November is my 35th anniversary.
That's super cool.
The pastor.
And you pastored a few churches before Olive.
Yes.
Okay. And then you came to Pensacola, and you've stayed here for 35 years now. I think I looked this up yesterday, but the average turnover in the pastorate is about 6 years. People stay pastoring a church. And so to be at one place in one mission field for 35 years, how has the Lord, I want that kind of faithfulness to one ministry. I desire that, you know? So how has the Lord enabled you to be able to stay at Olive for 35 years?
Well, I'd say number one, my sweet wife, Liz, she moved around a lot as a child. Her father was a pediatrician. And she had a desire when she got married. She wanted to go somewhere and spend her whole life. And when we fell in love and she said, okay, I'll go with you wherever God calls, she gave that up because she knew preachers moved every 4 to 6 years on an average. But God let us stay here. I believe one of the reasons is the answer to my wife's prayer. I believe God gave her the desire of her heart. Then you have to change. If you're not changing, you're dying. I'm on my 4th church at Olive. I mean, it's changed.
Yeah.
I had this kind of church and another kind of church. And I came, and Olive was out, on the peripheral of the city. And it was a very blue-collar church. No doctor, no lawyer. We had one oral surgeon that was in the church, but you didn't have a lot of white-collar people. It was just great blue-collar folks. Well, you go forward a few years, and my son, who now is an attorney downtown, when he got ready to go off to school, I asked him, I said, if you're a lawyer, I'd like to invite you to lunch next week. And so we had 16 people showed up, and that wasn't all of them.
Wow.
God gave us the up and out.
Sure.
As we grew. We kept that who we were.
Yeah.
But the reason he gave us the up and out is because we started the ministry village at Olive, and we first went after the down and out. And when we went after the poor and the hungry and the homeless, I believe God gave us the white-collar people to help fund what we needed to do. But our church had to change to do that. Because that's a different kind of church.
Right. When
you have homeless people walking in, and when you've got a surgeon sitting over here, or an attorney, or whatever, and so they walk in different places in life, but they're the same.
Yeah.
It's great to see that white collar and that no collar person kneel at the altar together.
Right.
Because when I read Revelation, I think that's the way it's going to be when we get to glory.
Yes, sir.
It's all level ground.
Yeah.
But we had to change from the economic standpoint. Then we had to change from a racial standpoint. When I got here, Olive was a white church. And that's who we were. I can remember the day that the first black man walked down the aisle. We were at the University of West Florida having our fundraising to build the new auditorium.
Really?
And I gave the invitation, and here he came. And I remember saying, I said, Lord, I don't have time for this, to deal with that. I'm trying to raise this money. Well, he came. His wife now works for, if you call the church right now, his wife will answer the phone.
Really? That's cool.
And so God gave us that. And Leo Day became our minister of music, was with me 7 years. I kid with him all the time. He was the whitest black man I ever met in all my life. And we go do a revival, and I tell him, I said, the black neck and the rednecks come in to preach this meeting. You know, we just laugh about it and joke.
Yeah, that's great.
But we embraced racial change.
Sure. Yeah.
And I had some tough backroom meetings with a few people.
Sure.
But if you're not changing, you die.
Yeah.
And so we've seen that change, 3 or 4 times. And now I'm kind of inching into what I think is the 4th church. I mean, I'll be 72 years old in December. But all of a sudden, we've got the touch of God on a college ministry that I've prayed for.
Yes.
Ever since I've been here.
Crossroads is incredible.
Yeah. I mean, and it's just what we've prayed, we've worked, we've tried, and all of a sudden the touch of God's come, and
yeah.
So we're embracing whatever that generation's called, XYZ, millennial, I don't know what the next one is. They make up names for it.
Yeah.
It's the young'uns. That's all I know. They're
right.
college kids.
Right.
I love those kids.
Yeah. I want to ask you a question
Yeah.
further about what you were describing there just a second ago.
Sure.
But Pastor Hunter's doing a great job at Crossroads.
Yeah.
I've only been a few times over there. When Jack Tyner preaches, I'm friends with Jack.
Yeah.
And so when Jack Tyner gets to preach over there, I try to make my way over there and hear him
Indeed.
preach. But one of the things I've noticed being on the outside of Olive looking in is that kind of culture that you were just describing, where kind of the Kevin Kirkpatricks who just got out of prison for 25 years can come and find a place at Olive.
Yeah.
And then some of the richer people I know, or some of the more spiritual people, that godly saints that I know, go to Olive. And so how do you, as a pastor, create a culture? I think that's what all pastors want, is a culture where it can be a hospital for the sinners, and it can be a place where the saints come to and be fed by the word of God. So how do you, as a pastor, try to create that culture?
Well, blessed are the balanced. There's no doubt about that. I mean, you if you just go after one thing, then that's the thing you're going to have. And as I said, I feel like those white collar people came to help me with those no collar people. I thought they saw that, and that was a draw to them. They wanted to do that, but you got to make that. And sometimes you just have to get in people's face. And after you've been there a few years, you can do things you couldn't do the first few years, because you've gained some confidence and a standing with your people to be able to say, you're wrong. We've got to do this.
Yeah.
I met last night with 5 basic committees in our church for what we are getting ready. We're launching what we call Vision 35.
Okay.
What will Olive Baptist Church look like in 10 years?
Okay.
And we've done that 3 times since I've been there.
That's cool.
We've had these large we had first a 2020 vision.
Yeah.
And then 2025 and now 2035. And out of that always comes the next thing. We don't know what it is, but we just try to get on our face before God, evaluate, look, and see what we should be about.
Wow. That's super neat. Now, you mentioned your wife Liz a little earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Is it 50 years yet?
I'll be 49 this December.
Okay, 49 coming up.
Yeah.
And I mentioned faithfulness earlier, and that's another aspect that's so respectable, so honorable. Left and right marriages are ending in divorce, and it's tougher and tougher to find a marriage that's like yours. And so, and funny enough, we're recording this podcast. So I've got a girlfriend. Her name's Isabel.
Okay.
And today we'll be dating for 2 years.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Don't mess up.
I know, right? That's the goal. I wanted to go to Jackson's Steakhouse tonight to celebrate, but they were yesterday when I tried to make a reservation, they were booked up.
Okay.
We're gonna go somewhere else nice though. But
Good.
Anywho, 2 years.
Waffle House will work.
I know, seriously. We'll see what she says, Pastor Traylor. We'll see.
You can get a steak there.
Yeah. Steak and eggs, exactly.
Yes, you can.
And my chocolate milk next to it. That'd be great. Now, okay, so 2 years versus you're coming up on 49.
Mm-hmm.
How have you created? That's another thing about you that I want to emulate. 49 years of marriage is incredible and so respectable. What are some keys to having a lasting marriage?
Well, I'd say number 1 is the first step. the first step's the most important step. It's not the last step, but the first step when you're getting in. Liz and I, we were in love, but not sure we wanted to get married because she wasn't sure she wanted to be in ministry. And I was already a pastor of a little country church out north of Birmingham at the time. And so she had to really deal with the first step of saying, okay, I'm all in. And she came to that place. We were at Delaney Street Baptist Church, Orlando, Florida. I was preaching an ordination service for a friend of mine one night, and she's sitting on the front row. And there's a whole story around it. We don't have time to look at it, but after it's over, she walked right up to me and she said, when you're ready to ask, the answer is yes.
Really?
Yeah, God really spoke to her that night.
What a green light. There it is.
Yeah, just boom. Yeah. It scared me to death. You know? And as I tell her, it took me several weeks to get up the courage to do what I wanted to do. But she had to be called just like I was called.
Yes, sir.
You know, I could get married and get divorced and still be the president of First National Bank.
Yeah.
I can get divorced and still be a basketball coach at UCLA.
Right.
But I can't be the pastor at Olive Baptist Church.
Right. Yeah.
That's got to be there. You can't fail in that realm and lead your people. So that first step was ever important. And then we took some strong faith steps, going to seminary together. She worked as I studied our way through. Then we went to our first church out of seminary. My wife miscarried twice. We didn't think we would ever have children. She lost an ovary. We were engaged. She had a cancerous ovary, and they removed one ovary, and thought she would never have children. Then after that, then she had, got pregnant, lost the baby, got pregnant, lost the baby, and we thought, well, we'll never have children. But we did. And God gave us a beautiful girl who's 43 and a son who's 40, be 40 here before long. And so those were steps of faith that we had to take together.
Yeah.
Then there are times to build that she has to understand me and I have to understand her. She has things that she'll do by herself. I do things by myself. At the same time, we try to guard time for each other. I remember my son was playing football at Tate High School. Deacons meeting is always on Thursday night at Olive Baptist Church, has been since Jesus came the first time. I mean, that's just the way it was. But when he was a ninth grader, they played on Thursday night. And so I went to the deacons and I said, I got a family issue, guys. Can you help me? I said, my son I hate to miss deacons meeting, but I'm not coming. I can't do it. I got to be out there with my wife. And they said, oh, sure, Pastor. I asked them. I didn't tell them. And they were glad to help me. But they were helping me with my wife at that time because I needed to hold her hand and go to Tate for that ninth grade football game.
Sure.
We did those things together.
Yeah.
And so it's just steps that we take. And,
that's great.
And then, the empty nest comes and and then we have 4 grandchildren now, and those are great steps and expensive steps, but they are, they're great steps.
Yeah. You mentioned along the way, prioritizing your wife and trying to do that. I've heard people explain before some of the demands that ministry takes, the time-consuming nature of it, and all these different things. But trying to prioritize your wife as your first ministry. Would you say that your wife and your family is your first ministry before your ministry to Olive?
Oh, yeah, has to be.
Yeah.
So
praise the Lord. So let me ask you this question: who are pastors or preachers that you've looked up to over the years and tried to emulate or model your ministry after? Are there men like that for you?
Sure. Growing up, Dr. W.A. Criswell was at the First Baptist Church of Dallas.
Yes, sir.
I listened to him. They have all of his stuff online where I, go to the Criswell website and click, and I walk about every morning, at least 5-6 mornings a week. And so I'll listen to him. Dr. Adrian Rogers became a dear friend at the Bellevue Church. They just called a new pastor last week. Ben Mandrell is following my good friend Steve Gaines, who's just stepping aside in retirement. And Adrian became a dear friend. He coached me on my move coming to Olive. We weren't close, but he was a friend enough I could get him on the phone, and he told me 2 or 3 things about Olive Baptist Church. Well, now after he's dead and gone, I listened to him. I have a third person, of course, I never knew, but I listened to Martin Lloyd-Jones. I didn't realize, but the MLK Trust, MLJ Trust, is a website where you can get Martin Lloyd-Jones Trust. All of his sermons
Okay.
are there. I visited his office and pulpit 5-6 years ago when I went on a sabbatical on a pulpit tour across Europe, and went to his office.
How cool is
and
that?
put on his preaching robe, that kind of thing, and it was really cool to be there. So he's a different kind of preacher than I am, but deep doctrinally, always mentally. He was a medical doctor before he became a preacher. So I enjoy listening to him, and he challenges me. And so those are three guys I listen to. And Dr. Rogers would have been an encourager personally. I only met Dr. Criswell a few times, but he wouldn't know me. And I did go to his funeral when he died. One of my men, doctor at the church, came to me and said, "You going to Dr. Criswell's funeral?" I said, "Oh, no, it's a long way." He said, "You're going, Pastor." He said, "Here's the deal. You get in the plane and go." And I flew to Dallas.
That's cool.
My secretary and husband that I served in Dallas before coming here, picked me up, took me to the funeral.
Oh, wow.
Brought me back late to the airport that night, and I flew back. So went to doctor, just barely got in the room. Roy Fish was my evangelism professor at Southwestern Seminary. My wife was his secretary for 2 years. Dr. Fish is in Southern Baptist circles one of the 12 apostles, and he is a great evangelistic preacher, teacher, and I became dear friends with him, and he really influenced my life deeply. So those are 4 or 5 guys that really poured into me.
That's great.
A lot of other country preachers back home that Nolan Ford led me to faith when I was 10 years old, became a Christian. Lionel Patton, who was my pastor when I became a preacher. Those guys really encouraged me.
The week that we're recording this, I know this will come out in about 2 weeks, but the week we're recording this, Pastor MacArthur passed away.
Yes.
And so Pastor MacArthur is one of those men that I, can look at through online and through YouTube and other things and see some of the stands he's taken over the years, and the bold stands against the culture, against society when it goes wicked, but yet he's still super doctrinally deep with his people. How has Pastor MacArthur's ministry influenced you over the years?
Well, I have all of his books, like everybody else, at my library. Great resources. The MacArthur Study Bible is a great tool that I use from time to time. I never knew John. I said hello to him once or twice, but I'm in a Southern Baptist church. He was not in a Southern Baptist church, so our paths would not have crossed in a lot of meetings. I never attended the Shepherd's Conference, though I've listened to a little bit of that. He is deeply, deeply Calvinistic, much more than I am, and would go that way. But at the same time, I have great respect for all of his teaching, biblical. I guess the word I've seen this week over and over more than anything else is a lion in the pulpit.
Yes.
That's been the phrase that most people have used about John MacArthur, a lion in the pulpit. And he indeed was that every time I ever heard him. He was powerful.
Courage is something that describes Pastor MacArthur.
Yes, great courage.
Time and time again. When the government told him to shut down his church, he said, "No, I'm not going to do it.
I'm going to go there."
And I think I watched this morning, actually, because I go to Micah 6:8, and Todd Leonard probably. He talked this morning about Pastor MacArthur's message, "We will not bow." And I think this was just after homosexuality was legal. The Supreme Court ruled that in all 50 states. And then Pastor MacArthur preached a message called "We will not bow." I listened to that this morning again. And man, did he stand up against the culture and say, we're not going to do that, even though that's what the law says. The Bible says something different, and I've got to go with that.
Amen.
And what a person to emulate. That kind of courage, it's respectable for sure. Now, you have been outspoken at events like the Run for Life, and you've done other similar things like that. And I don't know if you know this, but there is a drag show coming to Pensacola this December. Have you heard that?
I just saw it maybe 3 days ago online. Somebody posted something about it, and that the city is sponsoring or allowing, or I don't know enough to even speak about it, but
Sure.
I just saw it for the first time, and you're the second person
Okay.
that has said anything.
Yeah, I think the way it's working out is that the Sanger Theater is the event that's hosting it.
Okay.
And the Sanger Theater is owned by Escambia County.
Okay.
And so our city's putting that on in this December. And talk about the Run for Life. Like you've done these things before. And here's the question: like, what is the church's role in instances like that? Is it the church's role just to get up Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night, whenever you meet, and to verse by verse to, preach the word? Or is there a moment, like I mentioned with MacArthur, that you stand up there and you say, hey, this is like the prophets would do in the Old Testament, and rebuke the culture, the way the culture is going?
Certainly. It's our call. For me, I know other people, that's what they're known for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's really all they do.
Yeah.
I'm not that.
I've seen those people.
I don't want to be that.
Yeah.
I'm a Bible preacher, week in, week out. And I find if I preach the text, my people already know what I think about a drag show at the same time.
Right.
I mean, but, to need to speak to it, sure. Yeah, but it's not going to surprise them, because they'll have already heard me speak to that as I've preached through the book of Romans or whatever I'm in, or getting ready to go into Philippians, what I'm doing in Revelation right now.
Yeah.
So, I'm a Bible preacher, but there are times that even in a series, I tell young guys all the time, I say, listen, if you're a pastor in Pensacola, Florida, and you have a hurricane come through on Tuesday, you probably need to look at your text and where it might be good you take a week off and speak to the really heart need of your people.
Sure.
How to get the power back on is the priority.
Yes, sir.
Is there. So yeah, when these things arise, you have to be wise as a serpent, harmless as a dove, to know when to speak, when to hush.
Yeah.
What to say, what not to say.
Okay. Yeah. So after pastoring for 35 years, I'm sure you've made great relationships with people. And I'm sure people that you've loved maybe have left the church or other things. How, as a pastor, how do you handle some of those grievances, maybe where people leave, or how do you handle conflict like that in the church?
Well, if it's conflict in the church, then you handle that face to face, love in your heart, conviction, biblical, principled. And you can have great differences of opinion about items in the culture or whatever. And you honor those, and people go. That's why I tell people, I've been here 35 years, and I have a lot of pastors that say, "Boy, I'd like to stay, in one place a long time." I say, "It's good. It's really, really, really good, but it's not all honey and no bees."
Yeah.
Because of this thing you're talking about.
Sure.
I've got people, I don't know how many people I've got in other churches that used to come to hear me at Olive, and I used to be their pastor.
Yeah.
And now they're over there and over there and over here. And some of those reasons, you understand, they get married, but sometimes they just walk out the door and you never hear a word from them.
Yeah.
And those not much you do. You let them go. I ain't got time to run people down like that. I know where they've gone. Most of my leaders, if it's somebody close like a deacon or that kind of thing, they'll come. And I say that to them when we ordain them. If you're walking out of this place and going to another church in this city, you owe me a visit.
Yeah.
And they will come.
Sure.
And we sit down, we talk about it. Okay, good. Shake their hand. Say, God bless you as you go.
Yeah.
And, don't have to like it, but I have to love them and encourage them to. But if you're not careful, that stuff get in your mind, and you can't worry about that. Just be who God's called you to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as a pastor for, decades now, you've preached thousands of messages, I assume. And so so here's the question. Do you come up with new messages every Sunday or every time you preach, or do you pull out the file of, I preached this message, 10 years ago or something, and recycle it? Or how does that sermon process work for you?
I don't know how many times I've done it, but I guarantee you in 35 years, I've recycled less than 15.
Wow. That's incredible.
I may use the same text or whatever, but I bake fresh bread every Sunday. Matter of fact, when I drove over here today, I just left my pen and pad in Revelation 21:22 and preaching on Nike this Sunday, on the conqueror, on the overcomer, and that word Nike. And we're going to talk about being the victor.
Yeah.
I've preached through that passage before, but I've never never preached this particular outline sermon. And
That's cool.
so, yeah, I got 2 or 3 that I recycle. Now, when I preach out,
Yeah.
I recycle all the time when I preach out.
Sure.
And
Now, when you preach out, do you have a short list of a few that you pick from? Do you have some of your favorites?
oh yeah, everybody got their
Sugar
sweet
stick?
Yeah, sugar
Yep.
stick, and then I have 2 or 3 sermons that people will request that I come preach.
Okay. Yeah.
And so I'm always glad to hear that, and
Yeah.
I'm glad to go do that if that's what they want.
Yeah.
And
At times in ministry, I'm sure you've been discouraged. I'm sure you've gone through valleys as an individual. And so how, in those moments of discouragement, how did your congregants, minister to you, or how did you get out of those valleys in ministry?
I've been at Olive 35 years, 34 of the happiest years of my life. There was 1997. I made a very hard call. I know it was the right call. I don't know if I did it the right way or what. I made a decision. It was controversial within the body life of our church. Not many people left. My wife asked me, she said, "What is the worst thing that can happen?" And forgive my wording, but this is what I told her. I said, they can get as mad as hell and stay. That's the worst thing that can happen. And stay they did.
Sure.
And it was hard. I wanted to leave. It was my 7th year, right at that 6 number you talked about.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted out. I didn't want to be at Olive. I didn't think they deserved me, and I sure didn't think I deserved what I was getting. It was bad. I had people come to my office. I have a letter in the file at my home that I just looked at again the other day, looking through some old things. Said, "Pastor, we're going to burn your house down."
No way.
Oh, yes, sir. Yeah. And that came. It was unsigned, but we knew who it was. The police spent 2 nights in my house. Not knowing what was going to come. So I went home May 1997 one night. I pulled in about 8 o'clock. Car pulled up in front of my house. And I didn't know the car. I looked out the window. I said, well, I need to go out here and see what this is. So as I walked down from the house, 3 men got out, 3 of my dearest friends in the church. And I said, what are y'all doing? Whose car is this? They said, we rented this car this morning. I said, well, what are you doing? He said, we've been on a little trip. I said, yeah, where you been? They said, we've been to Pisgah. I said, sure. What? They said, well, you told us when you were growing up, artesian water used to come up out of the ground, and that's how the water. I said, yeah. They said, we drove to your home, 350 miles, how far it is from here to Pisgah. So we talked to your mother and daddy, and we got you a drink of water from home, just like David's men, mighty men in 2 Samuel. And he said, I wish I had a drink of water from the well in Bethlehem. They went to Bethlehem, snuck through the line, brought him a drink. They went and got me a quart of water and brought it back to me, drove 700 miles that day, and they brought me that water. Well, I have a sermon I preach on David's mighty men. That's the sermon that if people ask me to come preach somewhere, it's usually that message. Greatest encouragement of my life. And those men looked at me and that night said, Pastor, we are willing to die for you.
Huh.
That's how you make it.
Yeah.
God gives you great men. Now, thank God, I've got more godly women at Olive than I got godly men, I guarantee you. But you can't grow a great church without godly men.
Right.
And those men were 3 of what has become thousands that have stood by me. But those 3 stood when my world was on fire.
Wow.
Changed my life. I only sit here in this chair, remaining at the church because those 3 men went to Pisgah. I don't pastor these. I might even be in ministry. I don't know.
Yeah.
I may have quit. But what they did for me, I've never shared their names. Those 3 men that went and got that water, some can figure out maybe who it, but I believe the names are anonymous, and I have an agreement with those guys that I will not share their name until they die. One of them's in heaven, I shared this story at his funeral. The other two, I've never told anyone save my wife who they are.
That's such a cool story.
And it's been life-changing for many, 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 many people and many churches that I've preached it in. And those guys come around, their pastor in a new and a fresh way.
Yeah.
And I have people at Olive now, men, because I'll be one of them, Pastor. Count on me. I know one of them dead, but I'm there, and I'll go.
That's awesome.
So that's how I've made it. It's just great and good and godly men.
Yeah. I assume that the majority of people that listen to this podcast are probably going to be church attenders, not pastors. But being a pastor for so long, multiple decades now, what would you say pastors need as far as encouragement? That's a great story about how they did that for you.
Yeah.
What are some things practically that congregants can do for their pastor? How can they help their pastor be encouraged?
Well, certainly pray. I think we just kind of say that flippantly sometimes, but you really do need to lift him up. A handwritten note is more powerful, 100 times more powerful than a text or an email.
Yeah.
Is what business leaders that have done this scientifically say. I'm a voracious handwriting note card sending kind of guy.
Yeah.
A handwritten note to your pastor, just telling him, love you, here for you. What a great word that is. Special occasions or other time, slip him a gift card in there. Tell him take his wife out somewhere.
Waffle House.
Yeah. I get those all the time.
That's great.
And those kind of, just encouragement. Be faithful. Bring people to church. Be a soul winner. If you want to encourage me, introduce me to somebody lost you've brought to church this Sunday.
That's good.
Well, I'm here to tell you, you get me fired up about that. And I'll never forget your name. If you bring somebody to church and say, Pastor, this is Billy, and want you to know him. He came my guest today.
That's awesome.
Those are a few things that really encourage me.
I love it. Okay. Last question I've got for you.
Okay.
So I'm 20, like I said, and I'm going into junior year of college.
Okay.
If you could go back to young Ted Traylor and give him some advice about ministry, what would he need to hear way back then?
Well, I would say this is maybe a little different for everybody. What Ted Traylor needed to hear is get over yourself. Humble yourself under the mighty hand of God, and he will in due time exalt you. But you have to learn humility, be willing to do anything. Out of athletics, and that's my background, it's what I love, it's what I wanted to do. It's the way I do church. I coach my church. That's what I've been doing all this time. But, athletics can lead to pride and just sinew and muscle and, I'm going to get it done kind of humility, under the mighty hand of God. That's the word I needed.
Yeah.
Broken, bent. That's what 97 was all about, 1997. It wasn't so much about those people. It was about me. I tell you, Jesus was knocking everything it wasn't of the Lord out of me. That's what he was doing. You got to die to yourself.
Right.
In my backyard, there is a huge heritage oak. Every oak tree starts from one nut. It dies in the ground. And that tree grows out of its own grave. That's how Christians grow.
Yeah.
If you stay in the grave of dead to myself but alive to Christ, you will flourish.
Yeah.
But if you try to get out of that grave, you'll die.
Sounds like Romans 6. I love it.
Yes, sir.
That's great.
That's what we are.
Thank you, Pastor Traylor.
Well, thank you.
Thanks for taking the time.
Yes, sir.
It's been great.
My joy.
Sir, we recognize what Psalm 46:1 says, that God is our refuge and strength, and that he's a very present help in trouble. And if I can be a help to you, I'd love to do that. And my email is andrew@northstonebaptist.org. So feel free to email me your comments about this podcast, or if you need anything, I'd be happy to help. Thank you for listening.